Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Toronto. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler, and we're underway here in round number 4. Wow. Eugene Huang facing down Owen Turtenwald, looking to get his beat down on.
Owen Turtenwald is playing mono red aggro.
And are we talking mono red here?
No green flash.
No Atarka. And, yeah.
This is not Atarka red, this is mono red.
Yeah, Owen goes for the extremes, and speaking of the extremes, it looks like we're getting basically the extremes of the format here, Randy. We've got Eugene playing Esper Dragons, you know, one of the slower control decks in the format versus the fastest possible deck here, red aggro, so
yeah,
we get the polar opposites.
The really important thing that's going on here. I mean, this deck is capable of fighting. One of the reasons to play a super aggressive deck like mono red is that you can keep a 1-land draw. Now it looks like Owen kept it, was he on the draw? No, he's already missed 2 land drops. He was on the play.
He's on the play.
On the play, it's a little sketchier, but I mean, obviously had at least the 3-1 drops.
And here's Dragon Fodder to pump up that Foundry Street Denizen ×2
and pump the Swift Spear.
And the Swift Spear as well, also bolster up his board. So Eugene's going to have to fire off a removal spell of some sort. He's got multiple options in hand, including Bile Blight, which he's going to use right now to kill the Foundry Street Denizen, as that saves him the maximum amount of damage immediately. And that does become the name of the game in a lot of ways. But still, 4 damage crunching into the red zone here. And Eugene is still facing down 5 power plus from Owen Turtenwald.
Yeah, and Owen has no fear. Game 1, his strategy is to flood the board.
Yes.
These Esper Dragon decks do not tend to run sweepers. You know, they'll tend to have, you know, Drown in Sorrow in the sideboard, but not in the main deck. I think Owen is basically assuming that.
Yeah, they'll run 1 or 2 Crux in the Crux of Fate usually.
Have 2 Crux of Fate.
Yeah, which is pretty standard. But the problem is it's very slow.
Yeah,
like I mean, even if he hit Crux on time this game, he's going to be in single-digit life totals by a pretty deep margin here. And Owen Turtenwald, I'm assuming, has, you know, cards like Stoke the Flames and such to get him dead from there. In the meantime, in comes the entire team for Turtenwald. So 5 damage is going to drop Eugene down to 8 here. Should be 7. Unless, oh, he played a Dismal Backwater, so back up to 8. And now what does Owen do for the turn? He actually does have to consider now, though, the possibility of a Crux of Fate from Eugene Huang here. So
you also have to worry about things like Foul Tongue Invocation, though, when like suddenly they gain 4 life and you kind of wish you'd added to the pressure.
And here's Bile Blight on end step to take down both goblins. Eugene waiting all the way until the end. He wanted to see if there was something better. It cost him 2 life to do that.
What he really wanted to see was whether Owen was going to play another Dragon Fodder or a Hordling Outburst. See if he could get more dragons.
No, it cost him 2 precious life points to find out. And in the meantime, Lightning Strike's going to hit Eugene, and you can see how quickly these things can end. And he is going to play Foul Tongue Invocation here, revealing Silumgar the Drifting Death. And that would bump Eugene up. Now, this is where you see the Atarka's command, you know, come in a big way. That could be effectively a 7-point life swing, but Owen is shooing that card here.
Yeah, Owen's a big fan of consistency in his decks.
He loves
doesn't want to mess with his mana base, doesn't want to have a bunch of like 1 and 2 and 3-0s.
He does in fact have the Hordling Outburst. Looks like he decided not to play it last turn quite cleverly, and here's going to be Stoke the Flames to bring Eugene right back down to 5 and make that 3 damage less, so down to 2 for you, Eugene.
Crux or no.
And even then, you could just lose. Most, you know, many of Owen's creatures have haste or dash. All right, well, this is going to help a lot. He's drawn 2 Foul Tongue Invocations. Usually they just run 2 in the main. How many does Eugene actually have
3
here? He's up to 3. Okay, so Eugene, you know, with a slight nod towards facing this matchup, has stacked his main deck with 3 Foul Tongue Invocations.
I mean, they're solid in the mirror, too. They're solid against the Dragon decks.
For sure. And he's now up to 6 life again. You know, and looking at it here, I mean, he's at -2. Like, Owen's done 22 damage this game. It's just these 2 Foul Tongue Invocations.
Don't forget the Dismal Backwater. 24, 2 Backwaters.
So now it's back on Owen to still chip away and get these last 6 life points down.
Okay, he's going to risk the 2nd Goblin Maker because he wants the Prowess trigger off of the Swift Spear.
And there we go, right back down to 2 for Eugene Huang. Now, he has gained 4 life on each of the last 2 turns while killing a threat from Owen's side, and it is just not enough. This matchup is so bad for Eugene in game 1. Now, the real question is, did he bring the bullets, the silver bullets, to try to take down Owen in game 2? Because this is where it gets real.
2 copies of Drown in Sorrow.
Okay, that's a key.
Right, but it's only 2. The 4th Bile Blight.
That's absolutely key.
The Virulent Plague.
He has that. Okay.
1 copy.
Yeah, so that usually replaces one of the Drown in Sorrows.
Yeah,
if you feel like
Plague,
you're going to be playing a deck like Owen's, you'll bring in a Virulent Plague.
He's also got the 4th Foul Tongue.
He does.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess you bring in because the life gain is good. I mean, it's obviously not great in terms of killing creatures against a token
No, but
strategy.
you can combo off, right? Like if you get a Virulent Plague down, that wipes out all the tokens permanently.
Yes.
And then your Foul Tongues are killing actual creatures after that.
Or the combo that he did in game 1 of Bile Blight, untap Foul Tongue. I think that was a lot of the reason we saw him take the 2 damage from those goblins to go to end step. I mean, not only was he hoping to get more, but he also definitely wanted to set up where Foul Tongue got sort of a better creature than a goblin token.
That's right. And you can take out a lot of the super reactive spells and the expensive spells in Eugene's deck if you're able to set that up. Now, what about for Owen Turtenwald, though? What is he looking at in the sideboard? What are the weapons he has here?
Eidolon of the Great Revel.
That helps. That helps.
I would assume that's the plan. I mean, he's got a Heel Cutter. I don't think that comes in. He does have a Hall of Triumph, which
just doesn't do it.
It offsets the Virulent Plague.
Well, your guys still die. The Plague's -2/-2.
Oh, -2, right.
Yeah,
right.
so your guys just all die
anyway.
anyway.
No, you're right. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
What it can do potentially is you can fight Drown in Sorrow with your real creatures.
Yes, and
right, the 2 toughness creatures pick up the 3rd point of toughness to survive Drown.
Yeah, that's right. Now, and if
so I think it does come in here. I mean,
that's the thing is that if you don't actually see the actual Virulent Plague, then it's still fine, because what ends up happening is you play out your Dragon Fodder, and if you can stick the Hall of Triumph, you've got a real board state that must be dealt with. So then that forces Eugene to have multiple spot removal spells or a sweeper. And if they do, you can just play one, again, a Dragon Fodder or Hordling Outburst, and now you've got a board state, again, that must be dealt with and is really hard to deal with on a 1-for-1 basis. Now, the Plague really does mess that up, but...
Well, it messes up the token side of it, but I do think that, again, even against Drown, it's like it's not going to save tokens from Drown in Sorrow, but it is going to save... It's going to save Zergo. It's going to save Swift Spear. It's going to save the 4 copies of Goblin Rabble Master.
Totally.
He's even got the one of Miser's Heel Cutter. Yeah, so I think this is a matchup both players knew they were going to run into. I think that the Esper Dragons deck, it's a dog in game 1. People will argue about how big of a dog it is in game 1. The control players tend to feel like, well, I can win it. I mean, maybe that's just, good players who can beat bad players on aggro. Like, are you really going to beat Owen Turtenwald in game 1? No, not that time.
Hell no. I've played this matchup about 30 times. I was helping a friend test.
Sure.
And he was playing a mono red deck. And I was playing, he wanted to play against the Gauntlet. So we kind of focused on this matchup at first. And after about 10 matches, I said, I don't think we need to focus on this one quite as much. Like, it's something you need to know to consider, but game 1 is a joke.
Did you play much after sideboarding?
Yeah, we played tons of post-sideboard.
So
that's
the
where we
control
started
players
looking.
claim that they win this matchup after sideboarding.
I agree with that.
Favorites in game 2 and 3, and favorites by enough that they can realistically win the whole match.
Yeah, so I disagree with that second part. I think that if you average everything out, I think that the mono-red player gets a near walk in game 1.
Okay.
And that, essentially spotting them one game, even if you end up being 55-45 or 60-40 post board, is still not enough to overcome it. I mean, you still have to play against them one game where they're on the play.
Right.
But
the question is, what's the percentage? You say it's 55 or 60% for control.
Yeah, after board, yeah.
Right. Adrian Sullivan at the Pro Tour was claiming 80%.
Yeah, I think that's nonsense.
Okay.
I just don't agree. I don't think that that's true. Now, I didn't play Adrian's build either, so I don't want to comment on that specific, but yeah,
I think the Dragon's build is better than Adrian's build.
And this thing has great tools. You're taking out dead cards and replacing them with silver bullets. It's really nice.
Drifting Death is pretty solid in the matchup. Like, having those Dragons is actively good, I think. Well, going down to 6 cards is not good news. That's Eugene taking a mulligan, right?
That is correct, yeah.
What do you think about Owen's decision to play mono red this tournament?
I don't know. I never... When my friend and I were testing, he was playing the version that Martin Dang won the Pro Tour with.
Sure.
And I was super impressed by Atarka's Command in that deck.
Okay.
I played it before. I was actually the one that said you should try out this red deck. And my friend was reluctant to try it because he thought, oh, it's, you don't have that many options, and sometimes you just sort of run out of gas and you're just top decking these terrible cards. But I had played it a few times on Magic Online, and I found that deck very impressive. And I thought it had a lot of end game, a lot of play to it. And But I really thought a lot of that revolved around Atarka's Command. I think that that's one of the most powerful cards there. And, you know, that deck went away from cards like Rabblemaster. It only played a couple in the main deck to try to really punish these decks that are trying to do spot removal plans against
There's kind
you.
of two different things to Owen's decision, right? A, he's been playing a lot of odds-on for the last, I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, he won week 1 of Standard Super League with it.
Well, he won week 1 of Standard Super League with obs on aggro. He's played a lot of obs on mid-range at the Grand Prix level. Like the last 6 months, he's very much been in the reactive sort of mid-range shell, you know, card for card, trade, win with card advantage, have a million decisions. And so, you're right, Standard Super League on Tuesday night, he went obs on aggro, won the thing. So, wins week 1 there with obs on aggro, and then goes even more aggressive here at the Grand Prix.
That's right. I mean, he is ratcheted it up to 11 here. And you see Owen's underway here with Fire Drinker Satyr, looking to keep the heat down.
Yeah, so I mean, there's sort of like the question of which red aggro deck is better is an interesting question. But then, is Owen Turtenwald supposed to show up with a red aggro deck in the first place is also interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like it. I actually like Owen showing up with this aggro deck. I mean, I think that the field could just be a little soft to it.
I like it too.
It was last weekend. Now, maybe this is a better deck for last weekend, but we'll see what happens.
No, I like it. I like that Owen showed up with this deck. I was really surprised because you knew before I did, and I of course guessed some type of Obzon build, and you're like, nope, Foundry Street Denizen. I'm like, well then. All right, so a good board state to kick things off here for Owen. He's got 4 power on the board already, and he hasn't even played a spell yet this turn.
He also survived turn 3 without getting Drowned and Sorrowed.
Yeah, which is super important. He plays his 3rd land for the turn, and there's ultimate price on a 1-for-1 here with the Fire Drinker Satyr. And Owen's actually thinking here. He's getting in for 2 as the board sits.
What is he thinking about? Is he just thinking about the rest of his turn and taking now as the opportunity to think about the rest of his turn?
It's not his style. I think he actually has a play to make here. I don't know what it is. He's not playing like collateral damage or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think what the play is.
Yeah, the card's already tapped, so this isn't a situation where...
Yeah, Stoke the Flames. It's my fault, but it's only 3.
Yeah, that doesn't work here. So, all right, well, the Fire Drinker Satyr bites the dust. And what is Owen's follow-up play? It's Hordeling Outburst. So he must assume now that Eugene does not have access to a sweeper effect like Drown in Sorrow. And he's going for it. But you know what?
Could have a Bile Blight.
He's got one.
And he does.
It's going to open the door. Now, that was a 2-for-1 for Eugene, which is a big swing in the game. It looked like a lot more than that.
Yeah, it looks like a 5-for-1.
Right.
It's a 2-for-1.
And there is Monastery Swift Spear and another. Okay, so now you can see Owen's line of thought here. He's going to get in for 2 damage right now.
His hand
he's got
said
his
to
board
just
rebuilt again. Wow, and he's even got a Foundry Street Denizen as well. So fully rebuilt.
I think
oh, that is devastating. Drown in Sorrow comes up for Eugene, and that could have just been the game. It is very difficult now for Owen to rebuild from here. Though I will note that Eugene's missed another land drop. Of course, it's not great news for Owen because it means all the spells in all the cards in Eugene's hand are spells. But I see that interestingly, I think Eugene actually has a Thoughtseize still in his hand.
I see that too. I saw
a card that you
I
take out.
Dig through time. Cacking the fetch lane does get him to dig mana. Yeah, I mean, Owen's been 1-for-1, 2-for-1 day, and 3-for-1. Yeah. But Eugene still has to deal with these goblins.
He does. Yeah, that was a nice follow-up play there for Owen having that Hordeling Outburst. Owen has not missed a beat here.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that him thinking his response to that ultimate price was him deciding how he wanted to play the next couple of turns.
Like what that ultimate price actually meant.
What does it tell me about the cards in my opponent's hand? Like, does he have a Bile Blight? Does he have a Drown? I think it told Owen that Eugene did not have a Drown in Sorrow, which I think was correct.
I think that
Drown was
also
off the top.
Yeah, I think so too.
But
the Bile Blight got him.
He could still have had a Bile Blight. It didn't tell Owen anything about Bile Blight one way or the other, but I think just the sequencing of the way Owen's hand suggested itself. Like, you don't want to go post-combat Swift Spear. I may not have even had the Swift Spear that turn, so yeah. I think he decided to open up, if he's got Bile Blight, he's got me. And then Bile Blight into Drown off the top, he's kind of got me.
Owen had a solid backup plan, even if his creatures were to die.
Yeah, it's almost like Owen's on borrowed time. Wow, drown off the top.
Drown off the top,
Again.
that's after resolving a dig through time?
Yes.
Yeah, this cannot be good news for Owen
Well,
Turnwald
a
fans.
5 life is now the issue. Like, can Owen burn him from 6
That's
with
true,
the
he's
backwater?
at 6 here. It does take 2 burn spells to do it, but any 2 in the deck will do it.
Goes for Bile Blight there, not drown.
Does he have a counter spell of some sort that he's leaving up?
I see Foul Tongue. I see Thoughtseize.
Yeah, and
Something
he's got
blue.
another dig. All right, this is it though. Main phase, Stoke the Flames to bring Eugene down to 2, and within range of any burn
Does he have a
spell
dragon
in
for the
Owen's
Foul Tongue, or
deck.
no, he does not.
No dragon for Foul Tongue. That does mean though that a dash or haste creature wouldn't quite get the job done. And Owen's found a dragon fodder off the top. He is top decking for the win here. And he's presented lethal damage. And here's dig through time for Eugene Huang to try to find answers here. He's going to want to find a way, you know, to interact with an instant basically, and also
well, I mean,
with the 2
a dragon
goblins.
to turn on the 4 life from Foul Tongue basically counters any burn spell.
Yes, he's found
So-
Virulent Plague there.
Oh, that's not bad. It's probably the play.
At least a Bile Blight. So here he goes untapping. This is a huge turn here for Eugene. You know, I still don't think he's got a dragon though.
No, I don't think he does either.
And that is not, that's a Temple of Deceit, so no life gain off of that, though. Gaining 1 life doesn't do anything for him here. Well, I suppose it does given the 2 goblins.
Sure, but he's
I'm
got
assuming he has
multiple
an
ways
answer
to kill
to
them.
those,
He's
yeah.
got a drown and a virulent plague, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
at least a Bile Blight. All right, there's a plague. So that's going to give all token creatures -2/-2, and it's basically going to blank a lot of draw steps here for Owen. But he doesn't find what he needs and just passes the turn back. Really wanted to see a Zergo that he could dash there, a Lightning Strike, or a Stoke. And the super awkward Thoughtseize still in the hand for Eugene.
Yeah, I wonder if Eugene took out his Ojutais.
That's interesting. Yeah, normally, I mean, the normal plan for this deck is to take out the Thoughtseizes. Even if you feel like you're getting ahead of a Stoke the Flames, it's just not enough to justify the inclusion. And there's a polluted Delta for Eugene that he really can't afford to crack here. He would open himself up to additional kills like Swift Spear here.
Goblin Rabblemaster.
All right,
I would
so,
like to attack you.
Yeah, he makes a
my
token. The token
dies.
immediately dies, but he does have a lethal Rabblemaster in the wings here. And I think it's going to have to eat a Drown in Sorrow.
Or Foul Tongue, but he'd rather hold the Foul Tongue and wait for a dragon.
I think you try to wait for the Foul Tongue there. I mean, the Drown in Sorrow is going to 1-for-1 anything at this point anyway because of the Virulent Plague, so I think you just fire it off. It also gets him an extra scry to try to find a dragon here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
he'd already
scryed off the
scryed with
land.
his temple, so he likes what he has on top already. Can Owen find these last 2 points? He's so close.
Yeah, any burn spell is just lethal right here. Eugene has nothing.
And Owen cannot find
There's a dragon.
what he needs. And it was a dragon that he left on top?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Ojutai.
Ojutai would be a great one to have on the battlefield here. He can start churning through his deck, and it really puts the heat on Owen here. Now, the interesting thing about Foul Tongue Invocation is that there doesn't need to actually be a creature.
Right. You can Foul Tongue someone who doesn't have a creature just
Right.
to gain the life if
Just
you
to
have a
gain
dragon.
the life, yeah.
But now Owen has fed Fire Crusader into it, which is the right play.
Yes.
It's not going to work.
Standard win box number
You know, if Eugene had nothing else, it would at least dissuade
And he's
Ojutai
down to
from
one
attacking.
thing.
Yeah?
I mean, think about it. Eugene's played 2 copies of Dig Through Time.
Yep.
He's 2-for-1 with a Bile Blight,
Yep.
3-for-1 with a Drown in Sorrow. And Owen is still, like, had a couple of turns there where a burn spell would have been lethal.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 turns there where he could have ripped a few different things.
Yeah,
and
even,
won the
like
game.
running creatures would have burned through that Foul Tongue Invocation.
Yep. And
Or
there's
any
Foul
burn
Tongue.
spell. But, yeah.
Eugene's going to fire this off at his earliest convenience. He wants to make sure that he doesn't leave the window open for Owen to respond with instant speed burn spells with
Right.
Foul Tongue on the stack.
Right. So, yeah, Eugene now feeling a lot safer at
Right.
6 with an Ojutai.
Yeah, and
And a
Owen's
plague.
been playing his lands almost as if to say, look how many I've drawn. This deck functions just fine on 3 lands, thank you very much. And
He's flooded. 7
Yeah,
land.
now
I mean,
he's
we've played a
flooded.
lot of turns, but you don't want to draw 7 land in a deck like this. Now here's another dig. Is that dig number 3?
Yep. That should seal the deal here with Eugene on two burn spells away. Yeah, Dissolve in the later part of the game is really nice against these decks. It basically always hits a burn spell of some sort. Those are the harder spells to interact with from Eugene's side of the table here. He's got plenty of creature kill, but having defense against the burn spells is pretty important late, and he's got that now.
This game is like Owen's GP year in a nutshell. He keeps showing up, doing well, and then not quite getting this super good finish that he wants. He's gone 11-4, like, I don't know, at least 5 times, maybe 10. I'm not sure. Just always goes 11-4. So, on the one hand, it means that he still has the opportunity to pick up pro points. You only get 1 pro point for an 11-4 finish. If Owen could just put up a 12-3 even, he adds to that pro point total. You know, he can maybe claw his way back up to top 25 rankings. Try to get back to the point where he can captain Team USA in the World Cup again. I mean, those are the goals that he's really got. And he's got, like, there's room in his suite of Grand Prix finishes for him to catch Eric Froelich, for him to catch Sam Black, guys who are sort of ahead of him now, but already have most of their good Grand Prix finishes locked in.
With guys like Owen, you know, I don't view it as a bunch of near misses. I view it as he's knocking at the door. Like,
sure.
the clock is ticking for him to just put up another string like he has in the
but
past.
we're 3/4 of the way through the season.
Yeah, and it's ticking quickly at this point.
Right, right. I mean,
by the way, don't look now, but Eugene just resolved his 4th dig through time.
And Owen played his 9th mountain.
Yeah, so I think that's actually number 10 for him.
11-4 it's an in the money finish. Like, Owen's been finishing in the money at Grand Prix. What he's not been doing is finishing in the top 8,
right?
Or even the top 16 even.
All right, so Eugene picks up that game after Owen made it very, very close. He got Eugene to 2, like you mentioned. He had 2 or 3 draw steps in a row where any burn spell would have finished the game on the spot. But once Eugene finally found a dragon, in this case it was Dragon Lord Ojutai, he was able to get value from his Foul Tongue Invocation, and that kind of opened up the door for a little bit of breathing room. And, you know, by the time your opponent resolves their 4th dig through time, things don't look too good when you've got 10 mountains on the board when you're mono red. So we are going to get to see the last game, but this one's actually the most important one now, because this is where Owen gets to be on the play, right? Like, this is where Owen gets to deploy his game plan in the manner that he wants to deploy it and make Eugene react in the most possible way.
Meanwhile, yeah, if Owen had been on the play that game, he would have won.
Yes. Totally.
He just would have won.
Yeah, the Fire Drink Crusader would have gone in for 2 or 4 damage. It never ended up getting in, so it
and
does
meanwhile,
get that close.
Odds are Owen will draw less than 10 mountains this game.
Absolutely. I mean, he kept a 1-lander in game 1, and he won quite handily. And that's
you'd
not
much
uncommon.
rather have 1 land than 10.
Yeah, and now he gets up to 10 in this game and somehow can't pull it out. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's in number 3 ranking for Owen. He's been hung out at number 1 for a while. He's now been passed by Eric Froelich and Sam Black. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's not the case that Owen's been playing badly. I think it's just he's been consistently good. It's like if he could just take all those 11-4s and just move a win from one to the other, take like a 12-3 and a 10-5.
Yeah.
12-3 and a 10-5 just turns out to be significantly more valuable than a pair of 11-4s at the Grand Prix level.
That's how most, you know, tournament styles work, is they really reward
I'm not saying it's
peaking, you know.
I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah, I think most players would, you know, rather have a GP top 8 and a bunch of didn't make day 2s rather than I always make day 2s and I never top 8, right?
I bring it up mostly because when I look at, you know, the Pro Tour regulars, when I look at results and I'm trying to say who are the guys that I think are really good, I look for consistency. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy who puts up, you know, 3 top 16s is much better in my mind than the guy who won a Pro Tour and then scrubbed out twice. Mm-hmm. I think the guy with the 3 top 16s is probably the better Magic player.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's just when I look at things. So, I mean, I look at all the success that Owen's having, and it's just crystal clear the guy can play. He is absolutely one of the best players on the planet right now. You know, and this, like, the slide from 1st to 2nd and now to 3rd, it's just, I think it's just short-term variance. I mean, there are other, you know, you look at, I don't know, there are other people who've had more precipitous slides down the top 25 rankings where I wouldn't necessarily.
We've had some good ones.
You and I both debate whether we're going to name names.
No, I refuse. And I just saw Owen say, "I'll play first," and
Good call.
He can say that
I
with
like
some
that.
confidence here, as it really does put him in the driver's seat. Even post-board, Eugene is going to need to, because some of the moving parts that happen when you're sitting in Eugene's seat are that you need the right answers at the right time, which can be problematic, but you also need to have the right mana, and that can be a major issue for this deck.
No, it's true.
You can absolutely lose a game by having to play a tap land at the wrong turn. It happens all the time.
You know, I was talking to Andrew Cuneo this morning. He did not, so Pantheon did not have an Esper Dragons deck. Channel Fireball showed up with the Esper Dragons deck at the Pro Tour, and they crushed the Pro Tour. Those guys,
Most of them did.
They did spectacular. Well, the ones who played the Esper Dragons deck all crushed the Pro Tour.
They all crushed it.
The deck was clearly a great deck for this Pro Tour, but Andrew Cuneo still sticking to his blue-white guns. Does not think Esper Dragons is the right long-term deck or the right deck for this tournament. It's the mana is too inconsistent in his opinion, and the threats are beatable if you know what's coming. So, I mean, even if it might have been the right deck for the Pro Tour, that doesn't mean it's the right deck for this Grand Prix.
You know, if he wanted consistent mana, he could have played what Owen Turtenwald's played here. Mountains only. So here we go. Fire Drinker Satyr gets into the red zone, followed up by Eidolon of the Great Revel. Eugene has an important card in his hand that you'll see. He's got an Urborg, and that really does open up some of his other lands to be able to cast, you know, things like Bile Blight here in the early stages. So there's the Urborg. He's going to pass the turn back, and he's got a Drown in Sorrow in his hand, but not a Bile Blight. So Owen gets to kind of go off here this turn. He has to gauge how much he wants to commit to the board versus a presumed sweeper of some sort on the other side.
Well, I mean, he can pump Fire Drinker Satyr if he's nervous.
He's not nervous.
This is even better.
Sweet.
Dashing out the Hill Cutter means he gets to hit for 3 damage and not risk the Hill Cutter to the Drown in Sorrow.
That's right. It also costs 4 mana, so he doesn't even take any damage. This is just too cool.
Pay 3 mana for 4 mana spell. Eidolon doesn't care.
Yeah. And there is the Bile Blight, and Eugene properly recognizing that even though he's not going to have a blocker for a while, the Heel Cutter and the fact that it has dash and will stay in Owen's hand is super
easy
important.
Call. He doesn't even take any extra damage, right? The damage from the Eidolon is offset by not taking the damage from the Heel Cutter. And now this Drown is actually a sweeper.
Yes, he is going to take another 2 damage. So even though Owen Turtenwald had a creature killed on the second turn and 2 creature kills on the second, Eugene's at 10. He's halfway home already.
Eugene's draw could not be better.
No, this is perfect.
Urborg into Bile Blight into Drown?
It's perfect. And look, he doesn't have a second black mana source, so Urborg's super important here.
No, right.
Too.
I mean, that's...
Yeah.
When all the pieces come together, the deck is very impressive. I'm just trying to...
Yeah.
I feel like Eugene's draw has been fairly above average, and he's still lost half his life.
It's the nut. Yeah, this is the best draw. Now, Owen's draw has been quite good as well. So we're getting to see a proper slugfest here from the extreme decks of the format. I love this stuff. Now, Eugene did draw a Bile Blight last turn, so I think he's going to fire it off here.
He's got a second Bile Blight?
Yeah, I think he drew it off the top of the deck, so he's deciding if he wants to do it now. I think he's going to not get greedy. Yeah, and he's just going to Bile Blight to get rid of these things for sure right now while Owen's tapped out. This also can potentially crimp mana, depending on how Owen approaches the turn for, you know, a card like Stoked Flames or something like that. So,
yeah, the risk here being that if he lets Owen untap, A, Owen can potentially kill his creature, fizzle the Bile Blight, and defend the other tokens, or B, he could use those for Stoke the Flames.
That's right. So what we saw there was Zergo Bellstriker dashed in to bring Eugene down to 8, and this is where the game gets amazing, because now Owen, he has got to find a way to get these last 8, but he's got to be careful because Eugene is at full mana. He's got 5 mana going now, and he's going to have answers at the ready. So here's Zergo Bellstriker on the dash again. And this is pre-combat? He didn't let him attack with it. This is interesting timing here. I'm assuming that we're inside of attacks, meaning that Owen doesn't get a chance to dash out maybe a second copy of Zergo if he had it.
Does he want him to Stoke the Flames right now for some reason?
It's really interesting.
He must have been baiting a Stoke the Flames.
He absolutely was. Yes. And it was the right counter too. It was Hilumgar's Scorn just to say pay an extra. Yeah, and that was with Owen playing the land pre-combat, so that was a sweet play by Eugene.
Wow, Eugene was like, the only way this matters is if you want to cast Stoke.
That was a sweet play.
I'm going to deliberately make what looks like a mild misplay and see if I can get you to Stoke right here.
And he did exactly that.
Now he's got the dragon.
He does, but he didn't show it to him, so he's probably just trying to get Owen a little tilted here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was sweet. Sweet
Owen
play by
hasn't
Eugene.
done anything wrong, but I like Eugene has played this in such a way that if Owen wanted to go on tilt, he's given him lots of reasons. A lot of Magic is giving your opponent the ability to make mistakes.
And now here comes Dig Through Time and another land for Eugene. He's stabilized at 8 life. He's got 3 mana up. He's got Another dig in his hand and a Foul Tongue Invocation plus
with the dragon.
Silumgar. Yeah, and there's another dashed Zergo.
Yep. Delta
and this one's going to get Foul Tongued. Yeah, again though, I wonder when Eugene actually did that. I suppose it doesn't matter here. So back up to 12 for Eugene, and now Silumgar the Drifting Death is going to hit the battlefield. And this is not good news for Owen Turnwald. Wow. Things have spiraled out of control for him here. He does not have Eugene in burn range, so we're not in the similar spot like last time where we're looking at, you know, a top deck and a couple of burn spells in a row. He's got a lot of work to do to get Eugene dead. And that Silumgar the Drifting Death is going to blank some of the draw spells for Owen as well. He will have reduced the number of token makers he can make, but he's going to have them in his deck, and they're not going to do anything anymore.
Trigger prowess on this Swiftspear.
That's the dream here, and I think that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, there's dragon fodder to do what you said. Entice another attack from Silumgar and get a trigger here. Not exciting stuff.
2 mana for 1/3 of a Giant Growth. That's not a good play.
Yeah, and again, things really falling apart here for Owen as Eugene fires off an ultimate price on the only threat that's going to stick on the board anyway. Owen Turnwald has stone 0 answers to Silumgar. That thing has hexproof, and it's just, it's never leaving this board. So there's an Eidolon of the Great Revel. He can try to trick Eugene into killing himself. That's not going to work either. Lightning Strike, target you. He's going to fire that off first so that he can play the Eidolon afterwards and not take the 2 damage himself. His life total is becoming a precious commodity here as well. He does have Eugene down to 9, and here's Dig Through Time, which is of course quite safe from the Eidolon, but this is just bad news for Owen Turnwald fans here, as Eugene resolving another Dig Through Time should put him in the driver's seat to take this thing down. He's already in a dominating board position at a relatively safe life total. Now, you know, that Eidolon is probably going to demand a removal spell at some point, and that will knock Eugene down to 7 here, so things can get bad, but I think Owen's fresh out of cards. Here comes Dragonlord Ojutai to join the team. That is going to let Eugene attack with both dragons next turn and just kill the Eidolon without having to actually cast a spell that costs less, just in case he has left up Silumgar Scorn and Bile Blight. But yeah, I think this one's about in the books here for Eugene with his Esper Dragons list. You can see that the matchup changed post-combat. It's still close, but once Eugene turns the corner, this thing's done. 2 triggers here, both for Silumgar the Drifting Death is going to shrink down the Eidolon of the Great Revel to dead. But all right, before damage though, Stoke the Flames to kill Ojutai. That's going to get met with a Dissolve.
And by doing it there, Owen does get an Eidolon trigger out of the Dissolve at least.
He does indeed. Good point. So down to 7 there for Eugene. But in the meantime, Owen's on a 2-turn clock here. I mean, he's going to be dead very quickly here as he's taking 8 damage. Now there's some good news there for Owen. There was only 3 lands on top with the Ojutai trigger, but Eugene churns through his deck, scrying and scrying and scrying. And Owen has to find a kill right here, or he's dead. He's going to play Monastery Swiftspear, attack for 1, and that's going to get Bile Blight. And this should do it right here, as all Eugene has to do is attack into the cardless Owen Turnwald, and Owen has to reluctantly extend the hand. Always a sportsman, but a tough loss to take as Eugene improves to 4-0. Owen's going to have to settle with a 3-1 start here. Not how he drew it up.
Nope. But it's a long tournament. You know, he's the 4th loss is the one that's going to sting.
Okay.
Owen. I mean, his mission is to put up a 12-3. He'd love to make top 8, but he won't be disappointed if he can, as long as he can pick up a couple pro points toward those end of the year races. I mean, that's what he's here for. He's here to try to pick up pro points, and he needs 12-3 to do it. So it's a long weekend. It's just 1 round. Obviously not the way you want to start, but
yeah, and it's a tough first round to play too. I mean, he sits down against Eugene Huang, who, you know, he's had some success.
Nobody wants the round 4 feature match.
Yeah.
Getting called to a round 4 feature match means you got an unfortunately bad pairing. That's just the way the world works.
Yes. Okay, so let's jump over to our side match here where we've got Godenis Vidigiris. He's on 18 life with red-green dragons, it looks like, playing against number 7 in the world right now, Seth Manfield, who's playing, you guessed it, Esper Dragons. Hasn't gone anywhere, it seems. People maybe have made a few tweaks to the deck list, but this deck at least in the early stages here today, is certainly present and accounted for.
Deathmiss Raptor also, I think, going to be showing up a lot. Den Protector is the new hotness. The last couple weeks in Standard, Den Protector just keeps expanding his empire and expanding his empire.
Yeah, we've been seeing that card pop up more and more and more.
You know, it's funny, I saw Deathmiss Raptors first. Like, I think there were more Deathmiss Raptors at the Pro Tour than Den Protectors. But now they're like, oh, Den Protector's really good with Deathmiss Raptor. Wait a minute, Den Protector's just really, really good.
Yes.
So now you've got people playing Den Protectors without the Deathmiss combo.
In pursuit of value, Randy, we find it where it lives, and in this case,
in pursuit of Eternal Witness.
Yeah, well, that's also a stalwart of value, yeah. You heard people call it maternal witness?
No, funny.
because she's got a baby.
Sure.
It's kind of cute. I don't think I'm going to roll with that one, but I appreciated it, yeah. So our old friend, Courser of Crewfix, makes its first appearance on our screen here. Remember that guy? Yeah, so...
We made it like an hour in before we saw one, right? Hour and a half. There's just a lot of decks in Standard right now. A lot of different strategies, all of which are similarly powered.
Yeah. Standard was pretty wide open going into the Pro Tour, and then it felt like it just blew it up again, and now we're cleaning up all the pieces. I love it when it gets like this. These first few GPs after a PT are always interesting too. All right, and looks like Go is playing a face-down morph. Now, you know, is he of the Ash Cloud Phoenix
yeah, I mean, if you're Seth
persuasion here?
Manfield, I don't know what he's seen already in the match, but hypothetically, it could be a lot of different things. Which is a nice twist for the morph mechanic this time around, as opposed to last time. There's a lot more hidden information where it's not like, oh, it's a white deck, it must be Exalted Angel. It's much more, could be a Den Protector, could be an Ash Cloud.
Rattleclaw, maybe?
Could be Rattleclaw. We've seen Rattleclaw on his list. The answer, Go has Deathmist and Den Protector, and didn't we see, and Rattleclaws and Phoenix is in the sideboard.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so both the Ash Cloud Phoenix and the Rattleclaw Mystic are in the sideboard, and we saw the Rattleclaw Mystic earlier in this game.
Yeah, and we are sideboarded here, right? Yeah, so that could absolutely be that. This is game 3 versus these two top pros here in the early stages of the tournament. Again, you mentioned it, the round 4 feature match is kind of a bummer. Here's Seth Manfield setting up his Thoughtseize though, and he sees a nice hand here. Ash Cloud, looks like there's a Nissa Worldwaker, a Den Protector, and a Rattleclaw.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this deck labeled as Red-Green Dragons, but it's not that many dragons. It's more of a morph deck, a Mega Morph deck. It's got 4 Whisperwood Elementals.
Ah, okay.
Right, I mean, it does have 3 Atarkas, but I think that's just because you're red-green and Atarka's really good.
And Atarka's great.
But yeah, that's, I mean, the dragons is 3 Atarkas and a couple of Ugins. Yeah,
I suppose those are the
red-green Megamorph.
Yeah, and so it's got multiple mana creatures, right?
Oh yeah,
and it's also got that
deck.
Nykthos.
I mean,
yeah,
in its Heart of Hearts, it's a ramp deck. It has 1 Nykthos. It's just basically using elves to ramp into Whisperwood or
I like that.
Or Atarka.
Yeah, I like the ramp decks with these Megamorph cards too, because if you do get a ton of mana, you can you can play them, flip them, play another thing.
You're not just reliant on that one like 5 mana thing. You're like, okay, I got my Whisperwood, but oh, now I'll flip Den Protector.
Yeah.
Board, please. Once again, boost to ground 23 to the side board, please.
So it looks like Seth's still deciding here.
Yeah, that Nissa is in from the sideboard. It's kind of an interesting debate over how good Nissa actually is against control decks these days. Seems like the more dragons they have, the worse Nissa actually is.
Yeah, if Ojutai just snaps off Nissa, then it's not that bad.
Or if Silumgar steals it.
Oh yeah. Hopefully they're just dead by then, because you've made like 3, 4/4 tramplers.
Come here and take a look at the wall, figure out what's going on.
Depends which dragon.
Yeah. All right, so this turn ended up being Thoughtseize, Dragonlord, Ojutai, which looks pretty nice here. Go has definitely left up 2 mana, which again can still be Rattleclaw, or it could be a Den Protector. Let's see if he's going to turn this card face up right now. He wants to stay mana efficient. He's He's thinking about it. After just getting Thoughtseize, if you've got a Den Protector, it's pretty nice to bring back the thing that your opponent really didn't want you to have. But Go seems to be genuinely stumped as to what to do on end step here. Though Go does take his time with his decisions. This isn't uncommon. He lives in the tank. So he could just be mapping out what his next turn looks like. He's got a Haven of the Spirit Dragon sitting there on top of his library, which he can play, gain him a little bit of life. And it was Den Protector. Now we know that he's got that Nissa down there, and that's the card that Seth didn't want him to have out of the ones in his grip. I can't quite see the other cards in his yard, but I would put the obvious target, I suppose, on the Nissa here. And Seth taking a quick read of Den Protector. That's worth doing. She does have an ability that you don't see sometimes, which is she can't be blocked creatures with power lower than hers. And it looks like it was Wooded Foothills that ended up being the choice for Go Dennis. He finds another copy of Haven of the Spirit Dragon on top. He could shuffle that away if he didn't want it. He could also just play it for free, which seems preferable.
Ladies and gentlemen,
really prioritizing getting that Foothills, though. What's up with that?
Well,
is it because of the shuffle?
He didn't have a land drop, and it gives him a reshuffle.
But he did. He was drawing a Haven of the Spirit Dragon.
He didn't know that.
He did know that.
It wasn't his top card.
It was his top card.
It was his top card after his draw phase.
Uh-huh. No, his draw phase was Haven of the Spirit Dragon, and he revealed another one.
Oh, it was 2 Havens.
Yeah. So he knew that his next draw step was he had a land coming no matter what.
Then it was the reshuffle.
I guess it's just because he wanted to make sure to try to, craft his draw step moving forward here. And kind of a sad Elvish Mystic follow up there. But he's got this Ashcloud Phoenix. And he's also going to play the Rattleclaw Mystic. Did he just not have a second red mana? Is that what it was? He just couldn't cast the Ashcloud Phoenix without the second source there?
That's what it was.
All right.
Wow, Ashcloud looked like it matched up really good against Ojutai, but Silumgar Drifting Death changes that math just a little bit.
Was miserable for Go Dennis here.
Wow.
He's going to have that Ashcloud Phoenix turn face down again after it dies. And
not only do you not get to trade with my Ojutai, how about we kill 2?
What a huge turn for Seth. He also, of course, gets the obligatory Dragon Lord Ojutai trigger here. Now that Ashcloud's out of the way to trade it, Go Dennis's whole plan was to leave that up as a threat to trade for Ojutai, which would effectively just keep it back. Because Seth wouldn't want to make that trade, but this changes everything. Wow, that one toughness.
That was such a savage
brutal,
turn.
so brutal. And to set that up, Go Dennis had to take back the Wooded Foothills with his Den Protector, which is not, the most powerful option available to him. That means that the Nissa Worldwaker still sitting safely in the graveyard. That was just devastating turn there. Silumgar the Drifting Death. Pardon?
This is not actually good on this board.
This is always good.
It just dies the flyers.
You make dudes. Eats an attack, you don't get the trigger from Ojutai, you get a 4/4 Trampler out of the deal. Though I will say that there aren't that many good cards on a board like this if you're Go Dennis. Cards like Ugin, are the type of thing that you start to look for now, because
he plays multiple Ugins.
He's in such a bad spot. And there goes Den Protector off of Thoughtseize, leaving Go Dennis with just that one copy. Haven of the Spirit Dragon left here. Now, he does have enough mana to turn that Ashcloud Phoenix face up, but unfortunately, it dies.
Yeah. He can also play an Ugin if he comes up with one, right? Because Nykthos turns a profit.
Yeah, and I don't know how he's going to come up with one. He's drawing an Elvish Mystic here.
That part's not good.
Okay, well, you know, there's not a lot of good cards left in the deck here for Go.
No, this feels like he has to somehow resolve an Ugin, and we know there's not one coming. So
Right.
I assume there's not one in his yard. Haven could get it if there was.
They could, but then that would set him another mana back. It feels like Seth is going to be able to close this out. Now, the interesting part, of course, is that Go Dennis is at 16 here, so it's going to take 2 turns of attacks from Seth Manfield to end this game. That is a mighty fine clock, though, from a, you know, control deck, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not that many control decks can turn the corner like this one can, where, you know, when we first joined this game, Seth had no board state to speak of, and all of a sudden he's got a 2-turn, very difficult to deal with clock on his opponent that's going to be taking care of his board while he does it, freeing up all that mana and cards to deal with anything else that Go finds. Go's got to be like 2%, 1%.
Maybe less. Yeah, it's down there.
I mean, he's just so far behind here. Seth Manfield looking to start this thing off right at 4-0. Yeah, that actually just bought him a turn. Kind of interesting. Going this, you know, from 16 to 17 is actually a full draw step here and could open up the door. He's going to rumble with his team. But Seth, he can block here. He doesn't really have to worry about it. He's going to block the morph. Now remember, he knows what that is.
Yep.
It's an Ash Cloud Phoenix. And Go is going to take this opportunity to turn that Ash Cloud Phoenix face up and do 2 to both players.
And have it come back.
That's right. So it dies, comes back again, and that's 5 damage, hitting Seth +2. That actually added up pretty quickly there. Now, Seth is going to be able to wipe the board of both the Ash Cloud Phoenix, now that Go has tapped out, as well as the Den Protector here, leaving him with just the Courser of Crufix with Nissa Worldwaker on top. So this is actually going to depend on what Seth has in his hand at this point, as far as answers go. Because with Seth at 4, you know, Nissa Worldwaker plus a land is lethal if Seth had nothing. This is one of those spots where Seth is significantly ahead in the game, but there are now openings for him to lose this game, and he needs to make sure he doesn't fall into one of those.
Well, I think he has to attack. Like, the way Go played that, I think Seth actually did make the right block. By blocking the Ash Cloud, he forces Go to flip it and recycle it then, so that it now dies irrevocably to this attack. The problem is, the Nissa plus the Courser threatens a lethal counterattack from Go.
Yeah, now Seth has got 3 cards in his hand and he's going up to 4 off of the Ojutai trigger, so you got to figure he's got, I mean, he needs a way to kill a creature. Like, it's not that hard.
Well, he has to kill the land creature, right?
He does.
Some life.
Yeah, he needs an instant speed way to kill a creature, put up another blocker. Like, there's not a lot of cards in his deck that are spells that don't do what he needs. He either needs to counter the Planeswalker, kill the creature, or put up a blocker. And, you know, unless his hand is just all dig through times and nowhere to go with them, he should be fine. As I say that, he plays Temple of Enlightenment, he's digging. And I don't mean through time, I just mean through his library, but here's Nissa off the top. There's another Den Protector, so this is just, do you have it or not? He needs any counter spell, any creature kill at instant speed. He's showing him the Silumgar Scorn, which is going to get countered.
Yeah, time's already been called on the round, so I think they're just talking through how the game ends.
And that's going to do it. So Seth Manfield scoops up this match, 2 games to 1. Go definitely gave him a run for his money, and we got an interesting look at Go's new build there. I'm curious to see how that deck ends up playing out.
Red-Green Megamorph, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have a better name for it. It seems
By the way, we're tagging Megamorph onto a lot of deck names already early in the morning.
We sort of looked at, if it's got Den Protector and Death Mist Raptor, then we're going to call it a Megamorph.
I like the naming. I'm just saying there's a lot of Den Protectors and there's a lot of Death Mist Raptors already.
Story. You know what else there's a lot of?
What's that?
Esper Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
it's not. It's
a lot of good
death
players
is not
playing
dead yet.
I hope no one said it was dead. I think that it was